Hello, my name is Dylan, and today I'm going to be showing you how to pick your spells at level 1 for Pathfinder characters. This video kinda goes in between rolling for your stats and picking your class. So, let's get started. So for this video I've swapped over to an Elven Sorcerer instead of my Dwarf Warrior, and I've already rolled for my stats. Now, the reason I usually hold off rolling for stats until you've already picked your class is so that you know what stats your class runs off of. For non-magical classes, determining what stat your class runs off of is going to be a little more difficult. Generally for warriors and the like, if you want your character to be more combative damage dealer, you want strength and constitution. And for roguelike characters, you want a little more dexterity, possibly charisma, if you want to be able to tuck your way out of things. But for spellcasters, it's pretty easy to know what your dominant stat should be, assuming you want to be the most powerful spellcaster you can be, and that is, you look under spells, under your class description, and find where it says how you gain extra spells per day. So for a sorcerer, like other spellcasters, a sorcerer can only cast a certain number of spells of each level per day. Her basic daily spell allotment is given on table blah blah blah. She receives additional spells if she has a high charisma score. So you're going to want a high charisma score if you're playing a sorcerer, at least if you want her to be able to cast lots of spells. Now, with several spellcasters, there's sort of a secondary class you have to go through. With sorcerers, it's called Bloodline. You have to go through the Bloodline list and pick a Bloodline for your sorcerer to be with. For wizards, you pick a school of magic that you're proficient in, and a school that you're, like an opposed school that you're not proficient in. It's pretty much picking your class again, and each Bloodline or school of magic will give you different bonuses on those schools, or different bonuses on what your character can do, and also different debuffs. For this sorcerer's bloodline, I chose the Fey bloodline. This gives you an additional class skill, which you can check off under the skill list, and then it also gives you bonus spells depending on your level. So at the 3rd level, somebody of the Fey bloodline would gain Entangle. Also, under bloodlines, you'll see you get bonus feats here. On your character progression list, you'll see that they're at level 7, 14, and 19. You gain a bonus feat. Those bonus feats have to be chosen from this list here. Each bloodline also has a bloodline arcana, which is pretty much an additional special ability you get immediately after choosing the bloodline. So, for instance, whenever you cast a spell of the compulsion subschool, increase the spell's DC by 2. You just put that under special abilities, and it makes it so that your compulsion spells are more likely to succeed. And then each bloodline also has bloodline powers. Now, your bloodline powers pretty much acts as your class's progression chart. So you get something at level 1, you get something at level 3, something at level 9, etc., etc. So it's pretty much an additional progression chart with a little bit of thematics at the top. So this is where you write down where your bloodline or domain or specialty school or whatever else, depending on the spellcaster, you put down. So I just wrote down Fey there, and then put down the special abilities that I gained from the bloodline over here. Now we have to figure out what spells your character knows. One thing to remember when picking what spells your character has for each level is your character actually cannot learn a spell unless his major stat, which in my case is charisma for a sorcerer, if the actual score is equal to 10 plus a spell level. So each spell has a level. There are level 1 through 9 spells, and you have to, so in order for a sorcerer to cast a level 1 spell, he needs to have a charisma modifier, or a charisma score of at least 11. So that's probably not going to be too hard, especially if you put your best score in your dominant stat, but that's just something to take note of. So if your character is ever going to be able to learn, say, a level 9 spell, but his charisma score is only 18, he's not actually able to learn a spell until his score becomes 18. Now when we were checking to see what our primary stat was as a spellcaster, we read this little bit saying you can gain additional spells per day if you have a high charisma score. Now, that's how many spells you can cast in a single day. But right now we're going to find out how many spells our character is able to know. So, spells per day is like I can cast Fireball 5 times in one day, whereas spells known is I know Fireball, making it rain, and Thunderbolt. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up right now. But, so, spells known is what spells you can cast. Spells per day is how many spells you can cast. And so, spells known is, for sorcerers, a locked down quantity. You cannot know more spells than your level permits. With wizards, it is possible to learn more spells, but more spells than your level specifies. But with sorcerers, you're kind of locked down. Sorcerers are very limited on what spells they know. And where you find that is on this chart here that says sorcerer spells known. So at level 1, a sorcerer knows 4 level 0 spells. Those are known as orisons. Now, level 0 spells you have infinite casting of in most classes, so you don't need to worry about how many spells per day for 0 level spells, but sorcerers do know a limited number of them, and then you also know 2 first level spells. So when you're picking what spells your character knows, you're going to want to find your class's spell list. Wizards and sorcerers share the same spell list, and then you're going to want to find the level of spell that you're looking for. In my case, I'm looking for 4 0-level spells. Cantrips, they're not orisons for sorcerers. Sorry, I made that mistake earlier. So I'm going to pick 4 cantrips, and then I'm going to go over to level 1 spells and pick 2 of those. So spells are kind of similar to weapons, as you may see or have seen in Wealth and Equipment video. You don't just want to look at the little list and the brief description. You want to go to the actual spell and see what it does specifically so that you know exactly how to use it. Some areas you might want to look at is first the school. For wizards, this is particularly important because once you've picked a favored school, you also have an opposed school, and you want to make sure that you don't pick a spell of an opposed school. For sorcerers, this particular one is interesting for Sorcerer of Feyblood because they gain a +2 on the DC of spells that have a compulsion sub-school, and this particular one does have compulsion as its sub-school. It also tells you what level of characters can use this particular spell. Another thing you want to check out is casting time. It's a standard action, so it takes the same amount of time it would take to swing a sword or something. Components are kind of important. There are 4 main types of components and 1 sort of type of component that's similar to the others. The 4 different components of magic are verbal, so you have to be able to speak in order to cast the spell. Somatic, so you need to be able to move, your hands have to be free. Material, you need something to sacrifice in order to cast the spell, like burning something. And then focus, you need a prop in order to focus your spell. And then there's divine focus, which is pretty much focus, just, you know, you need a holy artifact or something. There's also the range. This is how far your spell can go. How many targets you can have. So this one targets 1 humanoid creature of 4 hit dice or less. There are other targets that can target only monsters or can target a group of people. There's duration. It only lasts for 1 round. So from the time the spell is cast till the end of your next turn. There's a saving throw, how the target can try and avoid your spell, and the DC for saving throws is talked about in your class under spells. It'll tell you what the saving throw against your spells are, and then also just what your spell does. So for days, this spell clouds the mind of a humanoid creature with 4 or fewer hit dice so that it takes no actions. So it'll make it so that target human cannot take an action on his next turn. Humanoids of 5 or more hit dice are not affected. A dazed subject is not stunned. so attackers get no special advantage against it. After a creature has been dazed by this spell, it is immune to the effects of this spell for 1 minute. Once you picked your spells, you're probably going to want to write them down. On the paper that is given, there's just this tiny itsy bitsy little space for spells known. Now, I don't really like that space, so I actually write them on a separate piece of paper, which I will then stick to maybe the back of my character sheet. Another idea is to put each individual spell on its own card, because then you can write down in a little more detail, as opposed to just a spell list. You can actually have, for instance, dancing lights and what it does, as opposed to just the name. Once you find out what spells you know, you may want to find out how many you can cast per day. So for sorcerers, you can cast as many 0 level spells per day as you want, but at level 1, you gain 3 spells per day. Then you're going to want to find this sheet, ability modifiers and bonus spells, and then figure out what your ability modifier is. So mine is charisma, and it's 18. For wizards, you'll want to know the ability modifier for your intelligence, and for other spellcasters, it might be other things. But, so as you can see here, my ability score is 18, the modifier is 4, and so I gain an additional level 1 spell per day, an additional level 2 spell per day, an additional level 3 spell per day, and an additional level 4 spell per day. And this is just how many spells I can cast in a day. This isn't learning new spells, just as a reminder. And I only know level 1 spells right now, so the level 2, 3, and 4 won't be too helpful right away, but as I level up, they will become more useful. And also, meta magic, which is something we might get into in another video, it will also affect higher level spells, even though I only know level 1 spells. And then you'll just want to keep track of how many spells you can cast per day. So I have infinite beside 0 level spells, and then 4 beside 1st level spells. And then you might want to, on a separate piece of paper, keep track of how many spells you've cast in a game day, just so that you know you've already cast 2 level 1 spells per day. At level 1, you can only cast 2 more, so you're going to want to keep track of those. There you go. You've picked your spells in your bloodline, or whatever else your particular spellcaster does uniquely to that particular class. This one is a little bit difficult to be a general all-around spellcaster video, just because each spellcaster, like, sorcerers are the only ones with bloodlines, and then there are wizards who have their dominant school and opposing schools, or there are bards who just learn songs, and so, but all of them pick spells and get spells per day pretty much the same, so this one did help you with that. And then with each of the other individual classes, you're just going to have to read what it says in the class. This will be a general guideline for how to pick their spells, but the individual classes will give you more information on what specifically it can do. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day.